Okay, so final round that will start with an art exhibit by Jessie Hedden on inspiration, process, and collaborations in the service of the ITOC program that Mary Beth Lee presented on Tuesday, and she's gonna tell us stories about Boreal Forest. And then we'll have our awards nomination, a very brief conference summary. I'll keep it short, I promise. And then a closing remark given by Florian Kraxner, Raisa Mekipe, and Natalia Luklina. Okay, thank you very much. Jessie, I'll stop sharing my screen so you can share yours.
Great. Perfect. Thank you for asking me to speak today. It's a real honor. This talk is about my work as an artist in relation to the current ITOC project, Boreal Forest Stories. The artwork you will see was all made in the past year, but my thoughts about it have probably been percolating in the background since I first came to Alaska and experienced the Boreal Forest. My project centers around the wetlands at Creamer's Field in Fairbanks and how I have seen it change over the past 20 years. This photo of my son Blake, taken just a couple of years ago, illustrates some of this change. Flooding at Creamer's Field has been a regular occurrence in recent years. Areas that once were dry are now flooded for most or all of the summer season. Furthermore, the landscape surrounding the wetland appears in undulating earthen waves, causing tall, mature birch and spruce to lean and tip in a crazy melee of directions. This is a noticeable change from my first experience walking the boardwalk 2 decades ago. I asked myself, is this normal? And obviously, it's not. It's part of climate change. Okay, can't seem to advance.
You should be able to click on the slide and it's gonna, oh yeah.
There we go. Sorry. The boardwalk that winds its way through the forest was once a constant and reliable extension of trail. Magical in the way it allowed us, the many visitors, to walk on water in a sense and experience this inaccessible and otherworldly space. Pictured here in 2021, as you can see, the boardwalk, like the landscape, is in a state of change. So I photographed it a number of times this summer, and you can see that it's completely flooded and broken on the left, and then on the right, it's bone dry after many days of hot weather and sun. Alaska became my home after a long, adventurous road trip from the East Coast. It was 1997, and I had just graduated from college with a BA in liberal arts. As is commonly said by many Alaskans, I did not intend to stay. John Haynes speaks about his experience of coming to Alaska. Quote, "Nothing I have yet done in life pleases me as much as this, and yet it seems only half deliberate, as if I had followed a scent on the wind and found myself in this place. Having come, I will have to stay. There's no way back." And this is from his book, The Stars, the Snow, the Fire. Though my work has taken various forms over the years, drawing and painting from life or direct observation is a central part of my practice. Creating artwork this way gets me outside of myself and in a state of responding intuitively. I am particularly drawn to complex subjects, as you can see in this field study titled Dark Pool with Leaning Trees. The composition has many opposing forces and levels of space. The medium is watercolor on paper. I typically work in oil or acrylic, but have recently been making watercolor paintings because they're very portable and I like the painterly effects. The water surface intrigues me visually and conceptually. It is a membrane dividing above and below, the visible to the invisible. At times, it is like a still pane of glass, reflecting sky and trees, while at other times the surface disappears, giving a clear view of dark, nearly black layers of decaying leaves and mud, otherworldly in contrast to the bright green surroundings. In the hot, dry weather of this summer, the water is gone completely, leaving deep ochre-colored depressions littered with broken trees. This is a painted paper collage, loosely based on the previous photograph. So this is the work that I will probably be exhibiting at the end of the ITOC project. The design includes submerged iron-stained tree limbs, a tussock sprouting new grass on top, and a succession of arching trees, blocking the sky, visible only as a reflection in the water. So this piece is called Tussock and Floating Plants, and it's 18 by 12 inches. The composition of this image is divided roughly into equal parts, land and water. Reflections show a mirror image of the trees and plants in fall colors. Sticks and floating logs punctuate the water surface. It's called Fall Reflections, 11 by 14 inches. And here I'm showing you a painted paper collage side by side with the watercolor study that I did in the field. Determining when an image is complete can be difficult. I look to achieve a synchrony between all the parts, creating a visual gestalt. The translation from watercolor to collage precipitates many changes. Generally, though, I hold true to the original compositional structure. And here you see that piece full screen. So I'm trying to express that magical quality I talked about earlier of the boardwalk, giving you access to this space that normally we would probably not go to very easily. So another thing I'm attempting to work with for this project is incorporating rubbings into my pieces. And I first made rubbings with my father, Mark Hedden, starting in the early 1990s as part of his archaeological work in Maine. We were using the rubbing process to document petroglyphs on the coast of Maine that are slowly wearing away from the action of waves across the rock ledges upon which they are etched. Also affected by climate change, of course, with the rising sea level. So here you see us actually making a rubbing using rice paper or thin pieces of cotton fabric stretched over the rock surface. And then we used brayers with ink to pick up the texture. And so this image is one of a European ship from about 1700. This is an example of a recent rubbing that I made, which is material for my collage work. It's from the wooden floorboards in the building housing my studio. I like how the fine texture contrasts with the hard edge geometric cut pieces of paper. It is also a way for me to incorporate wood, not just as subject, but as abstract imagery. And finally, given my history, the rubbings feel like a way to include an element of my personal narrative. So this is a collage incorporating rubbings and painted paper. It is called Climate Upheaval. It's 18 by 24 inches. And this is another one titled Floating. And I write, in these designs, the landscape elements are simplified, even more than earlier ones, to emphasize rhythmic relationships. There is a visual tug of war between flatness and the illusion of a pictorial space. A narrative is sequential in the way a trail through the woods has a beginning, middle, and end. The physical upheaval in the forest, exacerbated by climate change, is causing a rerouting of the trail and therefore also of the narrative. And finally, I just wanted to acknowledge the how I'm benefiting from all the collaboration involved in this project. And Helene came to my studio this winter and looked at looked and responded to my work, and we talked about some of the science behind the wetlands and how the hydrology is changing as a result of permafrost melt. And it was just a really wonderful experience, and I hope to do more of that in this coming year. And I'm also working with Sean Dogre, who is a percussionist at UAF and teaching at UAF, and he is interested in having a sound collage, so to speak, going on in synchrony, or to be experienced in synchrony with the visual work that I am creating for this project. So thanks so much.
Thank you, Jessie. I love your metaphor about the upheaving trail, changing our perspective on. Yeah, that's a beautiful image. Thank you very much, Jessie. Any questions for Jessie or remarks? I see applauding hands. If not, then I thank you again, Jessie, and
thank you.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the next creations. Good. And yes, we'll move to the awards then. I share my screen. Why do I do that all the time? Okay. Okay, and here you go. So, wait, okay. Hopefully I see nodding that you see my screen correctly. Yes, thank you, Florian. Yes, so yes, so all the chairs were required or requested to rank the presentations based on various criteria: the quality of the research, the quality of the presentation, how the research fitted with the theme of the session, and the total was based on a 45 points note or rank. And then, in addition to the shares, we had a survey that asked to all the other participants to the conference to vote for the presentation, both oral and poster presentation they liked the most. And we compiled this information. Well, I compiled this information and put it together with also the added idea that early career scientists may be the priority of these awards. So here is the sum and the final selection for this year's conference. So I'm very honored to say that Clément Hardy, who is a PhD student at the University of Quebec à Montréal in Canada, is awarded the first place for oral presentation. His presentation was on long-term impacts of uneven age management on landscape fragmentation and composition. Clément, you are here if you want to say anything.
Yes, I just want to say thank you. I'm really honored, and it's I don't know what to say. Thank you so much. I was really happy to be at this conference and really honored to be presenting my research. It's the first research that I present. I'm just at the beginning of my PhD thesis, so it's really overwhelming. Thank you so much.
Well, that's a very, very good sign for the rest of your PhD then.
I hope so. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, Clément. The second place for our presentation was an ex aequo. I had exactly the same number of votes and exactly the same grade for Amy Ogden, who is a master's student at Wilfrid Laurier University in Canada, and Kate Hayes, who is a PhD student at the University of Colorado in Denver. Emily talked about the impacts of changing permafrost conditions on plant productivity in the Northern Boreal. And Kate talked about biomass, soil carbon and pyrogenic carbon in reburn stands burnt in short interval in interior Alaska. So congratulations to the two of you. If you want to say something, you're more than welcome to take the floor. If you, yeah, it's up to you. But congratulations to you too. We'll move on to the third place for our presentation. Same thing, we had a lot of good grades and ex aequos there, with 3 people nominated for the third place. Mostarin Ara, PhD student in Southern Sweden Forest Research Center, Swedish University of Agricultural Sciences, for her talk on pre-commercial thinning in a Norway spruce stem provides forage for the ungulates without losing timber production. Then Peter Oakes, who is a postdoctoral scientist at Wilfrid Laurier University in Canada, talked about precipitation controls, the composition of DOM in subarctic taiga shield lakes. And finally, Elizabeth Hinkle, who is a PhD student at the University of Alaska Fairbanks, USA, talked about aquatic food web and community response to wildfire in interior Alaska boreal streams. So congratulations to the 3 of you. And if you want to say something, that's your chance right now. And if not, we'll move on to the poster presentations. Same thing, we'll have first, second, and third place. If I can move my slides correctly. So for the first place, best poster was for Dana Johnson, who is a master's student in Wisconsin-Madison University, USA. And she talked about soil bacterial response to fire under high and low moisture conditions in the northwestern Boreal Forest in Canada. So congratulations to you, Dana, if you are around. The second place goes to Alexi Jorgensen, who is a master student at Wilfrid Laurier University in Canada. And she talked about plant recovery and wildfire return to the Boreal Forest after fire. The wildlife return, sorry. And finally, the third place is attributed to three authors ex aequo. Facundo Smouffer, who is a master student at the University of Quebec à Montréal, who talked about integrating beaver ponds as a component of carbon emissions from boreal inland waters. Richard Murphy from Richard Murphy Photography, who is a professional photographer, who talked about drivers of landscape change across diverse boreal ecosystems in central Alaska, documented with high-resolution photographs. And finally, the third place goes also to Elena Kukavskaya, who is a senior researcher in the Laboratory of Forest Fires in the Sukachev Institute of Forest, Siberian branch of the Russian Academy of Science. And Elena talked about increasing fire and logging disturbances in Siberian boreal forest, a case study of the Angara region. So congratulations to you all. And best of luck for the rest of your research or professional career. And sure. Okay, I'll move on to, I stopped share my screen, right? And I'll move on unless there is any comment or remarks or anything. Yeah, and I should look at, a lot of thanks and congratulations in the chat box, which is always nice to see. And I just wanted to provide a very brief summary of the week. It's going to be, again, a very high level. But before going to the summary, I wanted to thank you all again for making that conference and that week such a great and productive and fascinating week around discussions, presentations that were very informative. I learned a lot personally during that week. Then for more personal thanks, I wanted to first thank Ruth Reuter, who is from working at UAF as University of Alaska Fairbanks as a programmer. And she was an extremely efficient support all along the week. And so I think we should all thank you for her help. I'm gonna thank again the organizing committee for their help in putting together the conference. So Maureen Willand, Florian Kraxner, both from IBFRA or working at IBFRA, and the scientific committee for putting together such a great range of sessions, and for going through the abstract selection and showing up at the conference and organizing and leading these great sessions and discussions. So thank you to you all. Thank you to the presenters that provided oral presentation, poster presentations, and great discussions as well. Thank you also to the participants, of course, for your contribution during the discussions, for your contributions in the chat box, for showing up at weird hours. We made our best to try to overlap most of the reasonable hours for all continents, but of course this was very challenging, and whether you had to wake up very early or stay up very late. So for that, thank you very much. Yes, so after that, I'd like to just recognize the very high quality of the talks we had and discussions we had this week. We talked a lot about probably the most frequent theme that came in a lot of the sessions was wildfire and the impact of wildfire on ecosystems and people. Wildfire regimes across the Boreal regions, but also globally, is changing very rapidly, is probably shifting to different regime with different behaviors, change in seasonality, change in frequency, and change in severity. It appears in regions where fires was not a significant disturbance before. So a lot of attention needs to be still devoted to the effect of wildfires. We talked about its effect on ecosystem carbon dynamic, biodiversity, wildlife habitat, also permafrost, and of course its effect on people health and social stability and subsistence. Besides fire disturbance, we also talked about, there was a lot of discussions and talks about climate change and extreme climate events, permafrost thaw, and insect disturbance that are also more and more frequent and severe disturbances that also interact together to push ecosystems towards their limit and sometimes towards ecological shift. One long and important session that happened this year at IBFRA, and that I think is that reveals the importance for this research and these collaborations to go on, is the land to water research with session 7 that talked about inland water and its importance when we talked about regional carbon assessment. It's now clear that inland waters needs to be integrated in these regional carbon assessments. We all through these discussions, not only on ecological implications of climate change in the Boreal regions, but also its implications for policy management and on social aspects. I think we were all very impressed by the amount of data and research that is produced, particularly in Russia. And I'm thinking I was very delighted for such a strong representation of the research in Russia for this conference. So thank you very much to our Russian colleagues for participating to the conference. And then, so we talked a lot about the implications of climate change, wildfire, and permafrost thaw on ecosystems, but we also talked about its implication on society, both at the local, regional, but also global level. We talked about, we had a great session yesterday that talked about the local impacts of the ecological consequences of climate change in the Boreal region, with 3 sessions that talked about how it impacts subsistence living and social stability of local communities, and particularly native communities across the Boreal region. We also talked about during that session, and also other sessions, but particularly that session from yesterday, about the need for changes in our conception of co-production of knowledge. More globally, I think there is a common consensus that an approach needs to still be designed. An approach or approaches needs to be designed to really go toward or produce efficient co-production of knowledge. And we need to change our conception on how to develop collaborative research in Boreal forest, integrating not only local knowledge, indigenous knowledge, but also making sure that the dialogue is a really 2-way or 3 ways or 4 ways dialogue, where research is influenced by the needs of the right holders of the Boreal region. We also saw throughout the week how art is an important way to think about research. It's not only very nice way to communicate about research, but it's also a way, a collaboration that scientists and researchers can use to reflect on their research and to imagine what the research of tomorrow should be. And finally, we talked about the importance of educations at various levels. We had a workshop that gave us some tools, educational tools that can use in citizen science or in K-12 education. And then we also talked this morning with our Russian colleagues also about the importance of training in the forest sector all across various domains of the forestry, on the implications of climate change in the Boreal region and how to integrate these dynamics in policy development and management plans. With that, I'm going to close my summary. It's a very incomplete summary. But yes, I hope you'll forgive me for that. Now I will ask Florian and Raisa and Natalia to take the floor and provide a closing remark. Thank you.
Okay, I think Raisa is not around, but I see Natalia.
Yeah.
And
okay.
I think so we start right away with an outlook into the future and address here the most important topic which everybody might be looking forward to, that is proposals for future conferences, for the future IBFRA conference. Natalia, do you want to show your slide again in order to put forward your proposal, or alternatively, I also took a screenshot because I was so amazed that I took a photo immediately. I can also show it. Okay, here it is. Perfect. Over to you, Natalia. Please put your proposal forward. You need to unmute yourself. It's all fine, Natalia. We can easily see it, but you need to unmute. We cannot hear you.
And yeah, I asked you to, yeah, you should see a window to ask you to unmute.
Ah, yeah, I do that. Okay.
Yeah, I tried, but it seems that it doesn't. So to unmute yourself, Natalia, you have to go at the bottom of your Zoom window, bottom left. You have the picture of a microphone. It should look green. Bottom left, yeah. Yes. Okay. Oh, no, it's not. Oh. What is gonna?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Good. We can hear you, Natalia.
Yeah. Nice. Nice. Dear colleagues, on behalf of Raisa Makipia from Luke, Alexander Kryshin from Forest Institute from Karelian Research Center of Russian Academy of Science, Pavel Grabarnik and Vladimir Shanin from Pushchino Research Center of the Russian Academy of Science, I suggest that the next IBFRA conference in 2023 will be jointly organized as Russian-Finnish cross-border event. And we ask to consider this our suggestion, please.
Very much. Thank you very much, Natalia. This is a great announcement, great proposal. And just to let our audience know that these proposals are usually collected at the end of each IBFRA conference and are then dealt with and evaluated at the upcoming steering group meeting of IBFRA. I can tell you right away that I see very big chances that this is becoming truth, and I'm myself also very much looking forward to confirm this as soon as possible. Thank you very much, Natalia. Thank you very much, Raisa. She announced that she might not be around here. This is great. Susan, you would like to add something to that, particularly now?
Thank you.
You raised your hand, Susan.
Okay, I forgot to unmute, sorry. I think that one of the things that actually made this conference so successful was that it was virtual, and that really enabled much better broad international participation than we usually get. Usually we get, kind of depending what country you're in, you get a lot heavier participation from that country. So I'm wondering if we can at least think about making it a hybrid conference. So not a fully virtual conference, but one that has virtual opportunities so that people who have travel restrictions, you know, or basically like the panel I put together, I never could have put together at a regular conference because most of those people would not have come, you know, traveled to Alaska to be on a panel. So there are many opportunities that having at least a virtual component can make the conference better, actually. But otherwise, I think the idea of having it in the Finland, Western Russia region sounds great.
Thank you, Susan. This is a great suggestion, and I couldn't finish my statement, actually, because I immediately caught up with Raisa. And I learned, because Natalia was still presenting a few more details of how things are planned. Natalia, do you want to add some more explanation how this proposal looks like, some more details, or should I?
Yes, Florian, we had no time enough to discuss this, our suggestion in details, but when we can do that, we will send our suggestion in more details from on behalf of all participants. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Thank you. So let me add to that, that the idea was, and please, Natalia, correct me, at least this is what I learned also from RISA, that this should be a hybrid conference. So it should be virtual for those who cannot participate in person. And the idea is to have a 2-day program in Finland and a 2-day program in Russia with a in-conference excursion in between these 2 days, basically.
Yes. You think that it would be, yes, it would be possible to organize a 2-day excursion in Russia and 2-day excursion in Finland on cross-border area.
Thank you very much.
You are breaking up a lot, Florian.
Sorry?
Very much. This is all. We learn much less.
Sorry, I cannot hear you.
Yeah, you are breaking up, Florian.
There might be problems, internet problems.
Okay,
sorry,
it's better now. It's better now.
Getting better?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let me repeat.
Can you stop the
okay, I stopped the screen. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, maybe that helps.
Yes.
This is actually much more than we usually announce at the end of a conference, where only a country is announced and nothing about the format. But I need to agree that this was a particularly good experience here. And I think that a hybrid conference, virtual and in person, is probably the future. Let's see. This is what we can say about the future conference. What is ongoing with respect to IBFRA future are the insight process that is presently being finished. There are some revisions to be done. We had 7 reviewers looking at it, and a keynote given by Peter Höchberg here on the first results. The reviews are ongoing, and these are the scientific reviews. And as announced already earlier, there will be also though shorter policy-based review, so that also the policy relevance of such a report is being recognized by the experts. With that outlook.
You had a question, Florian? Oh.
Did you hear me?
No, you have to repeat.
Okay, good. I will try again. I'm very sorry for these problems now. Before it worked better. What remains is to say thank you to everybody. Thank you to those who participated, to those who presented, to those who organized it. Several committees helped together. But we all know that a committee is nice and can do certain things, but in the end, it's all up to the chair. And so we really cannot thank you enough, Helene, for having had the guts to stand up and say, I do this conference, no matter whether this is under Corona or not. You were crazy enough and you did it. And I can say easily from now that this is one of the best conferences that IBFRA has seen, both from quality, from spirit, from everything I have seen here. This is among the best and will be very hard to be topped. So I can imagine that you were spinning around day and night in order to get things done during the conference, and to run everything alone here is really amazing. Although there's always a team behind, but you're responsible. I've seen you in each and every session, and this is just amazing. And the last weeks and months were crazy. It is over now, and you should enjoy the big success that you provided to IBFRA and all of us, actually. So let me close with a big hand from my side, and I hope that this can be heard. Thank you very much. Super great. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Florian. I have just a request from Jill. The videos on the YouTube channel, they will be there for quite a while. I would say probably until December.